So how do we clean our heart to the extent where really there is only purity in what our heart is doing? Because that's much harder to control.
Yes. So what would make us feel negative? Like if we want to have just pure thoughts and then we have negative feelings, we have even negative thoughts or a negative vision of the self, of a situation, of individuals. So where is that negativity coming from? Why do we? It's like a big paradox. We are pure, we are eternally pure, we are loving beings, and yet we are in a mess. We're in this deep need for change, and we've been seeking this that we know. We've been seeking love. We want love. We want to be pure. We want to be real. We want to be good. And our very nature is goodness. And so what's happened to us on the way? It's as if somehow I like to think two things about life. One, that we are life itself, but I like to think of it as a journey of a continuous expression. And I also like to think about it as a game. And so it's like life is the game that we play. And so on this journey, we are in continuous expression of that who we are. And we could say that we are now on a return journey to what we originally were, but somehow lost contact with on the way. And this happened, this wearing out of the original consciousness, a state of awareness of the being, happens through continuous expression in which we kind of lose, like the energy is not that we lose energy, we just lose the power of the original awareness. You know, it's like the light when you have a dimmer and you bring it, you make it lower and lower and lower. It's not off, it's still the light, it's got the full potential, but it's just shining less brightly. And you can make it as bright as you like. I wish it was as easy as that with consciousness. It would be a very easy return journey. But what has happened is that throughout time, we have lost the brightness of our original awareness. And so that wearing out of the consciousness disconnected us very, very, very gradually from who I originally am. And in doing so, I kind of moved out of that and into an awareness that became an illusion. When I confuse myself with, not with who I am, but with the image, not with who I am, but with what I do, or so I start creating a wrong identity of the self. And in doing that, we still continue to express and express, and all our actions, and I know you've explored the mind and you've explored the intellect, but there's a third faculty in the soul, which is the memory track, or what we call the sanskars, or the habits of the soul, the personality traits of the soul. And so whatever we do creates an imprint. It leaves I was thinking in Spanish. It leaves like a memory on the soul. And when we repeat things again and again throughout our journey, then it creates a habit. And those habits, as they grow, stronger and stronger, then it becomes like an automatic pilot in the form of an influence to our conscious mind. So when we set out, we say, okay, I want to have positive thoughts. I want to move out of a conflict, but I have created the habit of reacting to hurt. And so these feelings have stored in the soul in the form of a memory track. And unknowingly, we are under that influence. And so, like through our willpower, we set out to say, okay, today I will have a good vision or a positive vision of myself or of someone, and in this meeting I will not react, and I will be positive about whatever comes up. And when things kind of memory, then that influence becomes present in my mind. So I feel like a slave of something that is not about what is coming from outside of me, but it's something that is stored in the soul. But that which is a habit, for example, I've been hurt. Let's say we had a conflict some time ago, and so I was hurt. So I have, in a way, stored negative thoughts and feelings and grudges in my heart. And so there's this this is like an acquired habit. It's not an original feeling of the true heart of the soul, but somehow it has nestled in me in a way that now this is triggered from habits. But in my perception, I will see that that is how I am. So I will, and so it becomes like an inner conflict. So I may be very disturbed by these negative feelings and negative thoughts that are not really coming from what is being said. It's coming from what is stored in the soul. So this is why when we want to, when we really want to change my state of being, I walk myself into a space of honesty, and where I can recognize that it's not about what they are saying, what is hurting me, but it's what I am feeling. And those feelings are not coming from my true heart, because in my heart, there is only true love. But I have moved away from that. And now I am in the trap of, I would say, the heart of ego. Because as we move away from our original self and the identity of me being a pure being with a pure heart, I have now moved into duality. Mm-hmm. And so I think of myself that I am good and bad. And so sometimes I will feel proud of, and I have good feelings, and I feel good about things and good about myself, and I see the good in people, and then I can easily shift into negative feelings, negative emotions. And so what that creates in my mind is beliefs, and then I go into judgment. And so this is becoming like a new identity.
Before we go too far, Moira, into how to fix this, I just want to kind of reflect back what I've heard you saying, to make sure that we're all absolutely on the same page, and just, you know, pick out some of the points, because you've made so many lovely points there. I love what you said about this being a return journey, that we're returning back to that original pure. The heart somehow has become a bank deposit for all these experiences that we've had. And that has brought the heart to a lower vibrational frequency that we then start to think is who we are, and we start to identify with that. And we might have an intention habit of negativity. And when you look at our lives, you can understand how that has happened, because from what you're saying, we have all experienced this pure love at some point. So we know it's possible. And we go about our human love, the people, and our hopes are in them. But of course, they are also looking for it. And they can't meet our expectation because they can't give what they don't have. And they don't have unconditional, pure love, which is what we're looking for. And so we get disappointed, and then our heart feels broken, and we feel heavy-hearted, and we end up in a place where we begin to not trust in our heart, we begin to not trust in love, and we can feel hopeless, and this duality that you're speaking of. where our mind is wanting and thinking one thing, but our heart and the heaviness in our heart is telling us something else. So how do we begin to take steps towards mending a broken heart once we have arrived in the place of heaviness and brokenness when it comes to the heart and our experience of love?
Yeah, I just want to share a very short experience that I had that made me very aware that what I used to call love was really not true. When I was 24, I was leaving Argentina on a long journey. And, Latino families are very kind of attached to each other. So my family came to the airport to say goodbye. And I had told my parents I'm leaving home, not even so sure where I was going. I was heading for Spain, but then I would take it further. So they were all very, very sad. And it was so emotional, and I was crying, they were crying, we were in a mess. And so when I got onto the bus that took, I just had this thought: the people who love me most pay the highest price. And I told myself, this is not love. It was such a shocking thing to think, the whole flight. And and then I asked myself, then what is true love? What is true love? And that set me on this search. And when we say we are on a return journey, it's because we are looking, and that is so dear to us. So we know it, and we seek for it more intensively when we feel the deepest or the greatest void in the self of that pure energy. What I know myself, and that this was the beginning of a very fascinating time in my life. And what I was being taught was to become an observer of the self, to look inward. And equally learning what I am not. So we learn from both things. So that when the observer awakens and observes the self by looking within, and this inner world that we is behind our eyes, this sacred space where if you think of yourself now, where are you? Where exactly are you? You're here. You're somewhere here behind your eyes, conscious being. And when we become more consistent in this observance, we are able to distinguish. One thing that I love to tell myself is that ego cannot observe the soul, but the soul can observe this illusion of what we think we are, but we really are not. And so it brings us back from a physical, mundane, doing awareness into the subtle, the being, the voice, the one who is free. And so the more we look into this, the more we realize that I am just light, the light that shines through my experience. And I say that, there is this awakening to who I am. It's not so easy to realize and become fully aware I am. We're so used to thinking we need love. We need love. We want love. We look for it in others. We look for it even, doing what we do. But love is about giving of ourself. Love nurtures what we create through our expression, whether it's relationships or whatever we do. We create an atmosphere. So love is like the radiation of the light, the outwards. So love is really giving.
Can I push you a little
But
bit further on that point, Moira? Because, you were telling that story about your family and the tears in their eyes. And it's making me think that, so often, um, because we are loving in order to get something back for ourselves, to fill the hole that we have in ourselves, or to give us a, because if we love others and care for them, then they will love and care for us back. So it's kind of almost like a bargaining tool. If I love you, you'll love me back. Or, I will be there for me. So we create these ties, and we call them ties of love, but in a way they are stopping us from being free, because they're little kind of soul contracts with other people that we call love, but actually they're from that very human feeling of needing to ensure your security by having these connections of love, and actually stepping beyond that need to just getting what you are wanting from another source. That's quite a little shift that we have to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, in doing so, it's like flower or a plant. Like we are the seed. And within the seed, everything is contained. Everything is full. But the seed will not just sprout on its own. The seed will find its expression as a response to the light and the heat of the sun. So the sun doesn't add anything to the seed because the seed is complete, but it allows its expression. In a way, it makes it able to express. Yeah. So we as an individual being, why we look for what, as you were saying, we create these bondages or these dependencies or codependencies. We want that original, legitimate experience of who we are. And so now we need to reconnect. But in awakening to who I am, we also need to awaken to whom we belong to. Because just as the seed and the sun, the seed of a flower, of an oak tree, belong to each other, they exist for each other. And so the seed is expressed, it will have its full form, its fragrance, its color, it is contained. But when the sun touches it, that happens. So for us, it's the same. We need to access back to that space. This is why I call it a return journey, because we are coming back to who I am, but I also need that influence, which is not coming from my past and my habits and old. And I want to go to the original. So I need the light of divine love, of the love that comes from the source, from the divine being of light, which is eternal and unlimited. Or the divine, or the Father, whatever you call it. But there is this original, intrinsic, eternal relationship, connection of these two energies that belong to each other. And so when we can only see it and connect to it when we see ourselves as pure energy. If I see myself as Moira, I would think that my father is Dudley Lowe. But if I think, if I see myself as a body, I will feel that I have an age. And so I'm just in this corporeal dimension to it. And so when we become this bodiless being of light, we're able to see that the source of that light is another light, a bodiless light. And when that light touches the seed that the soul is, it awakens the potential energy, not only of love, of peace, of truth, of happiness within the seed.
I love
So
that.
we
I
need
love that. It's its own entity, but it only awakens with the light and the warmth of the sun. In that analogy, therefore, what would the rain be? Because the seed also needs
water.
The rains. So what would the rain be?
Love. We need the light of truth. So the rain would be what it needs to, like, wash away our ignorance. So we need to learn. So we need we need spiritual knowledge to be able to understand that I am a being of light. So when I look at myself, I will be able to recognize myself, but not on the basis of just another belief, but on true knowledge that will wash away my ignorance of having and all these limited ideas that I have held of who I am. And it takes me beyond that into the unlimited. If you think of yourself, how much can you love? Can you measure it? How much? How much peace can you feel? How much truth can you understand? So that the soul is unlimited. So it needs knowledge that will take you to that level of deep understanding, of spiritual understanding of our own existence, which is what will take us into a process of healing. It's like when we're able to let go of the illusion of what I thought I was and the illusion of what I thought others were, because we're not only holding onto a wrong image of myself, but conflicts are holding on to the wrong image of others. So we need to be able to let go. So there is this awakening, learning, of experimenting, of discovering, of experiencing who we are. And so we lose the fear of losing, because when we are in ego consciousness, we hold on to everything and everybody we possess because we are afraid of going back into the void of emptiness. So we have the illusion that, if I possess you, I have love. And so we're trapped. So as we experience God's love, it is the healing power that frees us from the demons of fear. And so we have nothing to lose because really we don't possess anything.
Wow.
But we thought we did.
That's so profound. That's really profound. You can't lose something because you never had it in the first place in reality. And I love what you're saying about the rain of knowledge. And that's why at the Brahma Kumaris, we share spiritual knowledge. Awaken the growth and potential within the soul and give you the knowledge in order to know that the sun is even there and you can access it, and the sun will then do its work to make you blossom and become who you are. I'd like to ask you a little bit more about the heart as a gateway to expanding consciousness. Let me explain a little bit what I mean by that. Our heart, the vehicle of our heart is how we show care for other people. We show empathy and sympathy for other people. We have compassion for other people. It takes us away from limited I consciousness of me, and what is it that I need to feel safe and secure and okay, to we, from me to we. It's like we can show to others through the love and care of our heart. somehow lifts us into another dimension that connects us with all of humanity.
Yeah.
And we can step into an unlimited consciousness through opening our heart to love.
Yeah. Once I read in a book that is available to you all, The 7 Myths About Love by Mike George, he said something, it's an expression that I like a lot. It says, he says, love cannot love love. But how do we know love? We can only know love when we grow, we become more loving, we become greater, we become more powerful, the more we give. You know, spiritual economy is exactly the opposite to the other economy. The other economy is when you spend, you have less. But here, when it comes to spirituality, you use grows. And when we give, when we become caring, and it's the invisible energy that gives, you know, that takes the shape of the need that another may be experimenting, you know, like to give, to fulfill a need of someone. And in the full understanding that, you know, that we are equal, there's no superiority in being compassionate. It's just that the more, because it's in the understanding that that one is also a loving being. And it's just in the need, and we can't give love, we can only share love. And as much as the, you know, the light of God can awaken in me the potential to love, when we are compassionate, we are like the vibration of love touches someone at a place of need that awakens. It's not that my love will do something for them, it will awaken the love that is within them. This is why being compassionate is so generous. Otherwise, you would make someone dependent on you, and that would be another hook. No, it would be another hook. And we can only help each other shining the light we are and creating an atmosphere where we can all feel comfortable and open up. You know, like a very interesting part of the healing process of the soul is sharing my heart, sharing my feelings. As much as we pretending to be what we were not, healing takes us exactly the opposite. We don't hide, but we don't hide our hurt. We can talk about it, and when we talk about what is really happening within, we need safe company. So you would find someone that you trust, that has very true feelings, that is not possessive and wanting to tell you what you have to do. You probably don't need advice. You probably just want someone to listen to you. You want to hear something, that's good too, whatever. But like, and I feel that this is all part of being very empathetic, like when you make yourself present in the understanding of what someone is going through, and maybe they don't need to hear anything, they just the light around them, that might be enough. And in that there's no judgment, no, just that very clean energy of true love. And I think that this is compassionate to ourselves. And we do this in the Brahma Kumaris. We have a very beautiful practice, and that is that we share our heart with God, but we do it in a very, I would say, physical way that has a very spiritual dimension to it, which is writing letters to God. And when you write, if you have someone to talk to, you would talk to that one, and you would feel relieved because you've been humble, you were open, you were sincere. And when you write a letter, you kind of let go of it, you give it away, and God can only take it without any judgment, with full acceptance of unconditional love that will not only make you feel worthy of being who you are and taking this pure energy from the source, that at a time when we can't use, we don't realize we have love within, that we are that love. So we, as a child, we just accept it from the mother so naturally. You don't see like much difference. You know, like a child doesn't know whether his hand and the mother's hand, it doesn't see any difference. He just feels the warmth. And this is what God's love does to us. It makes us feel that we are one, we're close, we're together. And I think that this is what makes us so compassionate. When his love takes the form of my need, that awakens in me the ability to care and to be for others what they need at their time of need.
Wonderful. I love that invitation to write, in a way, a love letter to God, you know, and if you've never tried that, it's a lovely exercise in this conversation, that if you'd like to join in with a question of your own, then do please put your question in the chat box, and you know, I can put your question to Moira and we can discuss the point that's in your mind, if there is a point in your mind. And I think we've arrived at this place where we're saying that, you know, pure love is our original nature, our original way of being. It's our original experience of the divine. Would you go so far as to say that humanity will move into a new time, a new space, when enough of us are operating from this level of the heart, that really the power of pure love is such that it will transform this world?
I definitely live by that conviction that once we reach a critical mass, and we've all heard like what metamorphosis is all about, and that is going to happen within each one of us, because we carry those imaginal cells that are within the caterpillar.
Chrysalis. The chrysalis.
Yes, it has the imaginal cells, and when it's the time, they will give shape to a very the pure being we are, because we will have left, you know, the ego consciousness. We will have transcended that limitation of illusion, really, and we will have become fully aware of who we are and who we are to each other, because we are just one family. I love this. I have always held in my heart, you know, that this is my human family. I love to think of human family. And what unites us is that we have the same common source, our parent, our mother and father, the divine energy of love, of peace, of truth. So when we come back to that awareness, as much as we made the world what it is today, we walked out of ourselves so far into the darkness of illusion. And so if we walk ourselves back into the light, we will just reach back home to who we are and what we're here for as well.
And yet that can feel such a hard thing to do when we're surrounded by the energy of downward thinking and negativity. How do we in our everyday lives have a practice that preserves that in a way that means we can stay connected to that feeling within us?
Yeah, these energies you're referring to, I mean, right now these two energies, it's like one descending and one is, but there is an emergence. I think, especially throughout this pandemic, we became aware that we can make choice, and so many people have taken on to some spiritual practice and some kind of improvement of quality living. So we have all realized that we can do certain things that will make our life experience more enjoyable. And I think that the practice of meditation has become a global trend, actually, as pure eating and exercise and rest, these things that we are now considering so vital in our life. I would like to say that because we're saying we're going back home, I would like to say that we need to remember. Because when we think of meditation, I'm in a little campaign of demystifying this word meditation, because sometimes the image, of a girl that is very tanned and very smart, sitting on a deck by a beautiful lake, and you say, but if I have to meditate all day, I'm not the one to sit in front of the lake. So this is not the right image, really, because meditation is really about being awake and remembering what is important. I live for, and who I am, and who the others beside me are, and who I belong to. So really, if we think of remembering as opposite to not opposite, like instead of meditation, because if I say we need to meditate a lot, you say, well, I work, I have my family, I have my health to take care of, so many things. So we would give meditation a little space as a practice. But if we think of it as remembering, being awake, is there any time we want to be, in forgetfulness or asleep again? Because that means going back into my ignorance. So remembrance is the practice we need to integrate into our lifestyle, in which we make conscious choice.
Mm-hmm.
We choose probably to exercise our body, to preserve our health. We choose to eat together, to preserve or cultivate a family feeling at home. We choose to communicate, to create a better atmosphere where there's more clarity and we can resolve things. So we start doing things on a very practical level that will create a lifestyle that we will be happy, because this is what we choose and we create. And I'm not saying by this that it's easy all the time. We will have many tests, because these habits that we have created within us are much more powerful than we can imagine.
Of course,
So
and they've built up over such a long period of time. And I like you bring, and I'd maybe even go one step further and say, rather than say I have to meditate all the time or I have to remember all the time, to say I have to stay connected to my heart all the time.
Yeah.
And to do that, you can stay connected to your heart whilst you're making a cup of tea, whilst you're walking down the stairs, whilst you're walking down the street and looking at other people. Anything, in any moment, am I feeling connected to my heart? Because if I am, then that will do the work of putting that lovely energy out into the world, which will then flow back to me as well. We've got a question here, Moira, from a hospice nurse, which is a beautiful question, and thank you for posting it. She's saying, would you say that while being in the presence with and for another, that in that state, often if something needs to be said or given, it just comes in the quiet mind? I found this true as a hospice nurse, being with family and patients. I don't need to know what to say, but if something needs to be said, it's already there. Presence is powerful. Knowledge is in the self. Do you know and experience this also? So what I'm taking from that question is sometimes we just need to be the presence of pure. To that.
That is a beautiful, beautiful reflection that you have shared with us. I'm also a surgical nurse. I was in the past. And this, what you're saying, that it comes to your mind, when we are silent enough and connected with the source, there will so automatically, and we can, there's a very beautiful awareness that we can have, is I'm an instrument. I'm only an instrument. And this person needs my presence, my company, how I see that one as a spiritual being will become a mirror of his wholeness. Maybe the body is in decline if you're in a hospice, but the soul is complete. So when you see that one as a soul, as a being of light, as a spiritual being, as you are, that is a gift that becomes like a mirror that will shine your light, the light of your purity, into the experience that soul is going through. And when we remember not only who I am, but who I belong to, it will be, I become like a conduit. I become like something that can channel divine light. We are not so aware what that soul needs. We know each other quite superficially anyway, but God knows his children. God would know exactly what that child needs. And if we at that moment become that pure light, egoless, selfless, that is able to shine, that light is able to shine through me, you'd be surprised how, in what way your presence could touch the life of that person. And it could be his last breaths, being in a hospice. Your
Would
help.
you say, Moira, that we can change a situation simply through being the embodiment of pure love,
Yes.
and that can actually heal a wounded relationship, can actually transform a difficult atmosphere, or even at a distance can solve a problem of some sort, that just by being the presence of love will transform without saying or doing anything. Have you experienced that?
Yes, I have experienced that with my family. We were at a point 2 years ago when we started working around inheritance and all these things, and there was a big conflict. And we have always been a very united family. And suddenly, we come together as siblings again, having walked different paths of life. We went into, because I was thinking, here am I who's lived a spiritual path for so long, and I'm in the midst of a discussion, and we were not treating each other nicely. So I said, well, what I believe in is family life. I do believe in that strongly. So I said, I need to heal from this, but I also need to restore this. So within myself, I prepared for the meetings. I started holding, to change when we have a negative vision of someone, to change something good about them. And I have always seen my brother and sisters as some, terrific people. So I said, let me go back to that vision of who they are. And, judging from what they say and they're doing right now is not who they are. So I practiced this, and I prepared for meetings in which I said, well, maybe I have to be very quiet. Maybe I have to, just hold the vision, no matter what is said. And I could see how my little incognito practice in my heart, at one point, I found myself phoning one of them, and it was a missed call because I didn't find him. And so he called me back and said, "You called me?" And I said, "Yes, I just called you to know, how are you?" And he said, "Oh, like he must have thought I was going to come with something really aggressive." And I realized that I was able to change my feeling, my vision. And when I spoke, my words carried that vibration that made him kind of release, like relax. And so we went into a conversation as if nothing had happened. It was amazing. So I think it's something we can practice if we we have the purity of intention, because our thoughts are like light. And if we shine light into a darkness, it will definitely transform, and it will awaken that in others too.
Well, that's a living example of the power of pure good wishes, and the power of a pure heart. And thank you for sharing that very moving story. We are at that point where we're going to move from words into experience. Thanks for the question. And if it's okay with you, Moira, could you lead us into an experience of what we've been talking about, this experience of the pure heart and the transformative capability that pure love can have? Thank you.
Thank you, Philippa. Yes, so let's all sit very comfortably and relaxed, and let's breathe deeply. And as I exhale, let me release any tension or any discomfort, whether in the body or in the soul. If there's anything I'm holding on to, any negative emotion or feeling, I allow myself to let it go. And I will take all my attention back into this sacred space behind my eyes, where I can feel my presence. I am in my own company as a being of light, as the soul energy that gives life to this body, that shines through my eyes, that shines through my attitude, through my smile, through the words I speak, and everything I do. This is the light that shines across to others, creating relationships. It's me. It's life force itself, the soul. And as I look deeper into myself, I emerge this feeling of pure love, that energy that nurtures. Love is the energy of creation. It gives life to everything I do. It feeds relationships. It's me. It's who I am. The living light, the loving being. And as I go deeper into silence, I will journey back beyond the mundane, the temporary, the corporeal dimension, into the silence of the home where I come from, where I perceive myself as light, bodiless light, a spark of divine energy in the presence of the source of unlimited, unconditional love, the divine being, my Father, the one who knows me forever, the one who accepts me as I am, the one who offers me pure love, godly love. This is the love that frees me from the past, that heals the wounds in the heart, the love that sets me free, that allows me to be who I am, the authentic, real me. And in his eyes, I can see my own beauty. In his presence, I am free. And holding on to this feeling in the awareness of being loved, I will come back to the perception of my body and the movement of every breath. And as I breathe in, radiate the light, the purity of love into every cell of my body, into my surrounding. Vibration, the vibration that shines out of me. Om means I am, and Shanti means peace.